Welcome back. I am back with former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Newt, you were out with an op-ed recently titled "The Wolves Will Become Sheep." Walk us through that op-ed and what's taking place right now in Washington.
Sure. Well, you have both with Attorney General Garland and with this select committee on January 6th, people who've run amok. They are breaking the rules. They are going after people in a way which is reminiscent of the British monarchy, using closed-door systems that we outlawed deliberately because we'd seen it. We knew what it was like. And they're running over people's civil liberties. And what they need to understand is on January 4th next year, you're going to have a Republican majority in the House and a Republican majority in the Senate. And all these people who've been so tough and so mean and so nasty are going to be delivered subpoenas for every document, every conversation, every tweet, every email, because I think it's clear that these are people who are literally just running over the law, pursuing innocent people, causing them to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees for no justification. And it's basically a lynch mob. And unfortunately, the Attorney General of the United States has joined that lynch mob and is totally misusing the FBI. And I think when you have a Republican Congress, this is all going to come crashing down, and the wolves are going to find out that they're now sheep, and they're the ones who are, in fact, going to, I think, face a real risk of jail for the kind of laws they're breaking.
Well, this is such great analysis. Meanwhile, you see more Americans leaning to the right in the face of all of these policies.
Well, look, the Democrats are losing on two fronts. They're losing on a reality front. I mean, every time you go to buy gasoline, you're reminded they're incompetent. And they're losing on a policy front. People don't want a socialist, left-wing, radical America. So they have a two-front fight. They're going to lose both fronts. And I think it's going to lead to one of the largest tsunamis in American history as they get thrown out.
Yeah.
And a good Sunday morning. President Biden's news conference on Wednesday was designed to kick off a second-year reset of his presidency, recapture his political identity, if you will. But our new NBC News poll suggests Mr. Biden does need a reset because he's lost his identity a bit. He's no longer seen as competent and effective. He's no longer seen as a good commander-in-chief, or perhaps most damaging, as easygoing and likable. In fact, just 5% of adults say Mr. Biden has performed better than expected as president. One of the many lowest firsts and fewest in our poll. And as we kick off our Meet the Midterms coverage heading into November, the NBC News political unit developed what we're calling a midterm meter. It's based on previous election cycles. It's basically 3 poll numbers you need to know best. I'm going to start with perhaps the most important number to understand the direction of the midterms. It's job approval here. The president's job approval rating sitting at 43%. If you look at history, history shows that kind of presidential approval rating leads to a shellacking for the party in power. How about the mood of the nation? Well, let me show you this. Right now, our wrong track, the nation's on the wrong track number, sitting at 72%. Second poll in a row where we've been over 70%. This is only the third time in our poll's history over 30 years where we've had 2 tracks that were that off. That, again, would put you in shellacking territory for the party in power. But the one place Democrats are holding up okay is on the question of which party should control Congress. Basically a dead heat, 1-point advantage there. But most analysts will tell you Democrats have to be up about 4 or 5 due to redistricting in order to actually hold the House here. So that puts it in the middle. But as you can see, 2 of our 3 most important indexes is sitting in shellacking territory right now for the Democrats. This is a dangerous place for the party and the president-to-be at the 1-year mark of this presidency.
Let's talk about the vaccines and the boosters. You have talked about how effective, especially the boosters are. Risk of severe illness reduced by as much as 94% with Delta, 84% with Omicron. What about the next booster shot? For a substantial part of the population, they're now moving into the 5th month of their booster. So does it lose its effectiveness, and how soon should they get another one, if that's your advice?
Well, the answer, Margaret, honestly, is that we don't know, because we don't know the durability of protection from the 3rd shot boost of an mRNA and the 2nd shot boost of a J&J. Certainly, you are going to see the antibody levels go down. That's natural. But there's an element of the immune response, B-cell memory and T-cell responses, where even though you do see a diminution of antibody levels, it is quite conceivable, and I hope it's true, that the 3rd shot boost will give a much greater durability of protection. We're following that very carefully. And when I say protection, Martha, I mean protection against severe disease. You are going to see breakthrough infections, as we've seen now, even in boosted people. But for the very most part, they're mild or even asymptomatic. That's where we would like to be, is to have that where you don't have to get more and more always every 6 months with a booster. We may need to boost again. That's entirely conceivable. But before we make that decision about yet again another boost, we want to determine clearly what the durability of protection is of that regular boost, that third shot that we're talking about.
There has been at least $2 trillion pumped into the economy. There have been child care tax credits. When President Biden took office, he sent out those $1,400 checks. There's been all this money pumped in with the intention of helping working people. Are you saying it just hasn't made a difference in your life?
Certainly not in my life personally.
Sandy, do you feel that way? I mean, I'm looking at a $300 tax credit per month for each child. The $1,400 checks that President Biden handed out. I'm looking at all these lists of things that were pumped out there with the intention of helping everyday people. Do you agree with Chelsea that it just hasn't made a difference in your life?
It really hasn't made a difference at all, at least in my life. Sure, it may have helped some people temporarily, but ultimately, what everything's caused with all this money pumped into the economy, it's caused inflation.
Well, economists would tell you a lot of that has to do with just the shocks from the pandemic. If you got a shot, if you went out and got the vaccine because it would help the economy, you know, is that an effective selling point for you versus telling you you're going to get sick or not?
That doesn't help the price of bacon right now.
We're proceeding on both paths at the same time. We'll be ready either way. The choice is Vladimir Putin's.
But what are you negotiating? If Russia's demands are non-starters, I mean, President Biden has already said Ukraine's not going to join NATO anytime soon. You've made this offer of reciprocal military exercises. What's left to talk about?
Margaret, we started this effort at diplomacy and dialogue about 10 days ago. And in the course of that, Russia has put some ideas on the table in writing to both the United States and NATO. We've been in very close consultation with allies and partners on what they put forward. We are now sharing our own ideas as well as our own deep concerns. And we'll see if in the mix there are things that we can do, again, on a reciprocal basis that would actually advance collective security in a way that answers some of what we're hearing, and Russia answering a lot of what they're hearing from us.
If you are focused on deterrence, why not do what Ukraine is asking you to do and sanction now? Take action now. Why keep it as a punitive matter after the fact?
Well, first, we are, as I said, taking action now. We built up across these many weeks a very strong coalition of countries that has made it very clear it will take very significant action if Russia commits renewed acts of aggression.
Right, and Ukraine is saying you could go harder. You could be stronger.
We've provided very significant military assistance to Ukraine. We've been taking action against Russian agents in Ukraine. But as to the sanctions, the most important thing we can do is to use them as a deterrent, as a means of dissuading Russia from engaging in further aggression. Once sanctions are triggered, you lose the deterrent effect.